worldwide. My name is Dr. Babright O, as you can see on the slide, and I'm here to present one of our topics in our lecture series, titled Environmental Pollution Monitoring, Concept and Application. So, the first on the slide is the environment. So, the question is that what is environment? The environment is a tripod dimension. Here we can see the atmosphere on top, the land, which is the lithosphere, and then the water, which is what? The hydrosphere. These three basic components make up what? The environment. Here, the next slide is some major environmental problems. Under these major environmental problems, they are divided into 5. One is the air pollution. Under the air pollution, we have several environmental issues or problems such as global climate change, stratospheric ozone depletion, urban air pollution, acid deposition, outdoor pollutants, indoor pollutant, noise. Under the water pollution, we have the following: sediment, nutrient overload, toxic chemicals, infectious agents, oxygen depletion, pesticide, oil spills, and excess heat. Under the biodiversity depletion, we have the habitat destruction, the habitat degradation, and extinction. Then under the food supply problems, we have overgrazing, the farmland loss and degradation, the wetland loss and degradation, overfishing, coastal pollution, soil erosion, soil salinization, soil waterlogging, water shortages, groundwater depletion, loss of biodiversity, and poor nutrition. The last environmental problem there is waste production. The waste include the solid waste and the hazardous waste, which is mostly divided into the solid, liquid, and gases. These and many more make up the major environmental problem. So we want to say here that the environmental problems are not only limited to the ones in the discourse of this lecture. There are many. But based on this lecture, we want to limit the major environmental problem into these 5 major areas, which are the air pollution, water pollution, biodiversity depletion, food supply problem, waste production, with the sub points under them. Then the question now is, what is environmental monitoring? Environmental monitoring can be defined as a systematic sampling of air, water, soil, biota in order to observe and study the environment, as well as to derive knowledge from this process. So it is a systematic sampling here, where these major components, are being sampled to observe and study the environment, and at the end get or derive knowledge or data from such process. It can also be described as the process and activity that need to take place to characterize and monitor the quality of the environment. It can also be a surveillance system for microbiological control of clean rooms and other control environment. It is a process which provides monitoring, testing, and feedback to the microbiological quality levels in aseptic environment. Microbial monitoring is now a program. Formerly we are defining environmental monitoring. This one now is microbial monitoring. It is a program designed to demonstrate the control of viable and non-viable particles in critical areas. So, the microbial monitoring is divided into 2, the viable monitoring and the non-viable monitoring. In critical areas, what are these areas? These areas include clean rooms for drug fill or finish, formulation tank rooms, laminar flow hoods, biological safety hoods, isolators, intravenous compound areas, and sterile packaging areas, and so on. So, as we said initially, the microbial monitoring is divided into the viable monitoring, which involves the testing and detection, the testing for the detection and elimination of bacteria, yeast, and mold. It includes monitoring of the personnel, the air, and the area surfaces for microbial contamination. So the non-variable monitoring is a reference for particle count measured by a laser counter. Purpose for environmental monitoring. So one of the purposes is to establish environmental baseline trends and cumulative effects. 2 is to test environmental modeling processes. 3 to educate the public about environmental conditions. 4 to inform policy design and decision making. 5 to ensure compliance with environmental regulation. 6 to assess the effect of anthropogenic influences. And then the 7th one is to conduct an inventory of natural resources. Here are a list of purposes of environmental monitoring, which include protection of water, public water supply, weather forecasting, hazardous, non-hazardous and radioactive waste management, natural resource protection and management, global climate change, urban air quality, economic development and land planning, population growth, endangered species, and biodiversity. The next one now is the environmental monitoring method. So environmental monitoring method are divided into 3 here. 1 is the ground-based sampling and measurement. 2 is the model-based monitoring. 3 is the satellite-based monitoring. So we start with the satellite-based. Under satellite-based monitoring, we have the following areas, which include the atmospheric monitoring, the air quality monitoring, climate change studies, resource management, glacier and snow, flood and drought management, land use and land cover, weather prediction, hazard monitoring, aviation, agriculture, marine and phytoplankton studies, and dust storm. Then, time will not permit us to dwell into the model and the model-based and satellite-based. Okay, types of monitoring. We want to look at type of monitoring. They include the source monitoring and the ambient environmental monitoring. The source monitoring is carried out for a number of reasons. 1, to identify and characterize the main sources in urban areas. 2, to determine the mass emission rate of pollutant from a particular source and assessment of how these are affected by process variation. 3 is to evaluate the effectiveness of control devices for pollution abatement. 4 is the evaluation of compliance with the statutory limitation on emission from individual sources. So you can see this is source. This is source-based monitoring. So you can see a picture of the industrial emission sources. Okay, here is majorly industrial sources, from petroleum to agro-allied industries. So when we do monitoring from the industrial point source, we call it source monitoring. The ambient monitoring involves the monitoring the environment, which can be carried out for a number of reasons. 1 is the mapping the concentration of pollutant in the environment. 2, identification of the pollution sensitive zone. 3, identification of possible sites for environmental monitoring station. 4, tracking process towards national quality standard attainment and emission reduction. 5, to serve as base for modeling of predicted pollutant concentration in the ambient air. 6 is to provide input for human health risk assessment studies. So we want to say here that this ambient monitoring includes the air pollution monitoring, the water pollution monitoring, the sediment, soil and biological monitoring, and noise level monitoring. So all the 6 points we had mentioned initially are covered within this for the air, the water, sediment, soil, biological and the noise level monitoring. Okay? Then here is the objective. During monitoring, programs are designed and steps are taken during the design. So here are the steps that are being designed in monitoring program. We have 1, the selection of site and number measured parameter to be a duration of survey, which are measured. 2, the sampling method are adopted. 3, the equipment selection. The equipment are selected specific to particular site. Analytical techniques. We devise a lot of techniques, analytical techniques, from simple to sophisticated in carrying out, in doing the monitoring. 5, we do calibration method. The analytical technique will be calibrated to ensure that it adheres to standard. 6 is the standard recording. Data are recorded and what? Documented. 7 is the data analysis. The data obtained now is being analyzed to know whether it's significant or not significant. Then the 7th or 8th one there, the data are presented either in tables, in charts, and in different patterns to see that it is presentable to the larger audience. Then the last one there is information dissemination. Information accumulated through journals, through proceedings, through different media outlets to the wider public. So these are the steps in the design of a monitoring program is that each of the above reasons for carrying out monitoring demand different answers to a number of questions. Example, number and location of sampling site, duration of the study, and time resolution of sampling will vary according to the use to which the collected data are to be put. Decisions on what to monitor, when and where to monitor, and how to monitor are often made much easier once the purpose of monitoring is clearly stated. It is the most important that the first step in the design of a monitoring program should be to set out the objective of the study. So I want to say that the objective of the study is the most important step during design of monitoring program. Okay? Then the next we have is the challenges to environmental monitoring. So environmental monitoring has a lot of challenges, ranging from lack of political will to lack of understanding and awareness of environmental issues, lack of data and information, lack of skills, lack of human resources, lack of funding, lack of awareness of available tools, overcomplicated overlapping environmental legislation, lack of access to methodologies that work, corruption, fragmentation of environmental responsibilities. Then, how do we meet this challenge? What do we do to overcome or circumvent these challenges? So, the first one there is what? The new technology. So, newer, advanced, and sophisticated technologies are evolving day by day, and then involve environmental DNA, or what we call metagenomic DNA. We have the new instrumentation. A lot of new instruments are being designed. Satellite imagery, using the satellite to check images of the environment and the site. Other satellite application. So they are evolving. 2 is to new approaches. So there are a lot of rapid increase in the number of citizen science projects. So a lot of projects are evolving day by day on the environment to cope these challenges. Combining approaches such as cropland capture, using citizen scientists to look at satellite image of the Earth surface and note whether they see cropland in the image or not. So 3 is partnership. So we identify where there is value working together, making basis of current partnership, then looking to other sectors. So there are a lot of partnerships, like UNDP. It's an acronym that stands for United Nations Development Program. UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program. We have the MSEC, FEPA, IAEU. The FEPA is Federal Environmental Protection Agency. IAEU, USAID, World Bank, FAO. USAID is United States Agency for International Development. FAO is Food and Agriculture Organization, etc. So several of these partnership organizations, they work jointly or singly, in helping to solve some of the challenges facing the environment. And then another way of meeting the challenges to improve environmental governance, legislative harmonization, and following reforms. And following what? Reforms. The next slide is on application of environmental monitoring. Now, in order for us to look at the applications, we look at it in different aspects. Number one application that it helps in environmental decision making and access to justice in environmental matters. 2, it helps us it is applied in biosensors like genotoxicity biosensor, mutagenicity biosensors. A lot of biosensors are developed to monitor the environment, to check whether they are toxic or what or not. They provide a valuable mechanism for data collection and dissemination on a global scale, making it possible to address global scale issues such as water security and climatic changes. So, under valuable data collection, we have the changes. So, under that again, number 4 application is in GIS, Global Information System, GIS, which we use to monitor the atmosphere, the vegetation and groundwater, surface and water temperature. Then we have the GHG tracking, which is greenhouse gas tracking, which consists of carbon dioxide and other toxic gases. Okay, which involve the consumption metering and atmospheric measurement. So another way again another application is early warning system, famine and drought, natural disasters. Okay. Another is environmental monitoring, carbon trading, conservation planning. These are under the environmental mitigation. The international agreement where there is ratification and implementation. Another one is the capacity building, which consists of awareness of threats and identifying the impact. So what to say here, particularly the early warning system. In Europe and America and some advanced nations of Asian and American continent, usually on every street or major streets in cities, they have something like a billboard, so like neon signs, like a television, big television on those streets, telling them about the weather conditions and possibly imminent natural disasters that await them. So with this, they bring home or they drive home the tendencies, possibilities of, these disasters, like famine, droughts, earthquake. So it's an early warning system in such situations. So they develop it and then educate the citizens on the imminent natural disasters, and then the citizens take note and then become proactive. Okay. So we can see here that the environmental pollution monitoring is very, very important. Looking at the concepts of the definitions, the terminologies, the types of environmental monitoring, the areas to monitor, the challenges, and then applications and solutions to them. Okay, so I want to say that having this concept, at heart, will help us to understand how the environment is monitored, how the environmental pollutions are monitored, and the future prospects that awaits we environmental scientists, especially my environmental microbial scientists, onto knowing the strategies or approaches we can adopt, either by ourselves or in partnership with other environmental team experts in monitoring the environmental pollution effectively. So if you enjoy our lectures, we want to suggest that you like, subscribe, share and comment. Our lecture series. This lecture series. Okay? Thank you and God bless you for listening.